Mr. Speaker, I am the first elected representative younger than this building, home of our political traditions, and I am acutely aware of the trust placed in us by the people who elect us.
Very good, and that is Australia's youngest ever MP, Wyatt Roy, delivering his maiden speech in Parliament. And Wyatt joins me now to discuss what's making news. Hey, Wyatt.
G'day, Carl.
Gee, I love your name. Mate, great stuff. Well done on the speech. Were you nervy?
Oh, of course you're nervous. I think anybody that stands up in the Parliament for the first time is probably pretty daunted by it, but you've got a job to do, and I look forward to making the speech, and I clearly outline what I think are the two differences between the two sides of politics, and you know, now it's just getting on with the job and serving the locals who put me there in the first place. Cool.
Let's get on with it then. First up, the government says it is determined to crack down on competition in the banking sector after a record profit haul by the Big Four. This is what the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, told me earlier.
We've already done some things. We've made it easier for people to vote with their feet and change their mortgages, and I think there'd be a lot of Commonwealth Bank customers who are thinking about that right now. We're not going down that regulate the interest rate path. That's economics discarded for the last 30 years. But we are increasing competition, which puts pressure on banks to do the right thing.
All right, Wyatt, can the government fix this ongoing problem? Would you legislate to regulate?
Well, I think it's really disappointing that it took an interest rate rise on Melbourne Cup Day for the government to decide that they wanted to do something for Australians out there. I mean, they really are following the Coalition's lead on this now. Joe Hockey's been out there talking about these issues for quite a while, and we saw the government ridicule the Coalition and Joe Hockey for even talking about these issues. And now, hypocritically, because of nothing more than political convenience, the Prime Minister's coming out and completely changed her position. I don't think they have a lot of integrity on this issue when we've been out there talking about this, laying out a plan to achieve real outcomes to put lower pressure on interest rates, and the Prime Minister's quickly changed her mind for political convenience.
All right, the whole idea behind Joe Hockey's 9-point plan is to, as you say, reduce the level of pressure, but Julia Gillard basically admitted that she doesn't want to control interest rates, and no government does. If you were in power, would you endeavour to control interest rates? Would you regulate?
No, we never said that we would go out there to try and regulate. We actually said we should enforce.
So would it work,
try and encourage.
Would it work?
Well,
then?
what we're saying is we try and encourage competition in the marketplace to fix solutions to these problems. Things like price signalling by the major banks. If we can stop that, well, that's a market mechanism which will help put lower pressure on interest rates and stop the banks following when they start to put that upward pressure.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it all transpires. The Courier Mail reports the average Queenslander, this is a disturbing story, Wyatt, is left with only $18 a week after meeting basic weekly expenses like the mortgage, groceries and petrol. That is not a lot of money and a real indication of how tough many families are doing it at the moment.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, Carl. In Longman, in Caboolture, we have twice the national average unemployment rate, and people are genuinely hurting out there. It's interesting, too, when the Labor government came to power, they had a lot of political gimmicks. They had, Grocery Watch, they had Fuel Watch, and we really failed to see any real outcomes on any of those issues. And as we're going forward, the locals tell me that they're quite worried on a day-to-day basis about where we're heading, the rises in electricity and water. And we have a Labor government that came to power and said, well, we won't implement a carbon tax. And now in an alliance with the Greens, again for the sake of political convenience, this Labor government's going to introduce a carbon tax, which will put upward pressure on the cost of living for everybody. And I think the locals in Longman and around the country have every right to be concerned and worried about that.
Keep talking to those constituents. We can quickly see what happens when you don't. Look at Barack Obama overnight. Finally, San Francisco has become the first American city to ban Happy Meals with toys. Hallelujah. Saying there should be no incentive for kids to order unhealthy food. Good idea, Wyatt?
Well, it's not something I would instinctively support. I'd like to see some personal responsibility put in the hands of parents for their children. I think ultimately that's where the responsibility should lay. I think corporate businesses probably should have a little bit more responsibility, but let's be realistic about this. I think parents should have some say about what their kids are eating.
I'll ask you again when you've got 3 little ones and you take them to McDonald's, my friend. You'll have a very different view of it all. Good on you, Wyatt. Thank you very much, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Good on you.
Thanks, Carl.
Wyatt Roy there, Lisa, on fire.
Thanks, Carl.